Welcome to the IME Community Podcast, where self-love is your superpower to achieve your weight and life goals and make your mark in the world. Your host is Dr. Carla, activist, MD. If you're a teen who's looking to revolutionize your health and can't wait to follow your dreams, welcome to the IME community.
Retro 80s shades here, guys, and if you're watching me on YouTube, you're gonna see my cool shoulder pads and cool 80s hair because I'm cool like that. I have a little song for you. I wear my sunglasses at night so I can. Just a little ditty from the 80s by Corey Hart, a throwback to the 80s, just like me. Putting myself out there for you guys at IME Community, okay? Gonna put these shades up. Do you know this song, Future So Bright I Have to Wear Shades by Timbuk3? How about Cheap Sunglasses by ZZ Top or Past My Shades by B.O.B.? Those are just a few of the songs I went to Google, like all the songs about sunglasses. And because I was thinking of a bunch of them off the top of my head and thinking about this podcast because we're going to talk about reframing 2020. So I thought I'd have that cool, fun metaphor for IME Community. And I was wondering, when you Google it, songs about sunglasses, so many different songs come up from different eras too. And I was thinking, did we have enough of silly love songs like Paul McCartney sings that we had to stop writing about love and start writing about sunglasses? So, like I said, we're talking about reframing 2020. And I can tell you that reframing 2020 is something we all probably need to do, but most of us, and I'm one of you who's included in this, is that I feel more kind of let's not even talk about it, please. In 2020, I was thinking about what's a great analogy or metaphor for what 2020 is like. And I think it's kind of like when someone lets a stealth ripper out they let it loose in a small room, and everyone looks around to see kind of who dealt it and hope they're not getting blamed. And no one wants to talk about who dealt the ripper, and everyone wants to bolt out of the room as fast as possible. And the only reason I think then it's oh, that's a funny joke because we've all been on both sides of that and can relate to it. And I was going to say, if you're offended, I'm talking about in telling fart jokes on the IME Community Podcast. I just wanted to kind of have a disclaimer that because I'm a pediatrician and we talk about stuff like that, and also because I coach teens, it's just the perfect storm, perfect scenario. So there you go. I get to do what I want. You can become a life coach for teen and make those jokes as well. Anyway, I always think it's interesting, on New Year's, and I don't know if you can relate to this, that everyone's acting like when 2020 is over, then everything's going to be just unicorns and rainbows and everything's going to be gorgeous. But we're in 2021 already, and has that panned out for us so far? I don't think so. We're still in the middle of a pandemic. There's so many other things obviously going on in our country, causing a lot of unrest. Check out my second podcast, I'm Your Helper. I'm going to keep showing up. I'm going to keep speaking up. I'm going to keep being here for you guys. You're all still remote learning or hybrid, and no matter how well you're hanging in there, we've all have to admit that this pandemic has kind of sucked the fun out of a lot of things, right? That we used to do or that we were planning on doing. But, on the flip side, everyone talks about I'm grateful for all these positive things. And a lot of us parents talk about it's been so great to have my kids at home and we've had the great family time. And sure, we've had some of that, and we've also had the opposite. And lots of family meals, which I'm sure if you're a teen listening, you're just like loving all that too, right? Just kidding. Maybe like rolling over and flipping on your laptop, hitting stop video after the teacher kind of catches your face, then rolling back over is easier and funnier to kind of look back on that as maybe a positive for you guys during 2020. Maybe you've got some cool face masks. I don't know. Most likely, though, and on a more serious note, you're like most of us, and maybe you know people who have had or do currently have COVID, or your parents are taking care of patients. Maybe they work in healthcare. Maybe they're teachers. You're thinking of your teachers or your own health. Maybe your parents or people you love are first responders. Maybe you've been worried. Maybe you're still worried about your loved ones, your grandparents. Maybe you're mourning the loss of someone you love. And I want to tell you, like, that kind of loss and grief and worry isn't something that I'm talking about just like simply reframing up 2020. And I want to really support you in that and let you know that if you're feeling grief and loss and worry, I'm thinking about you, and I'm really hoping that you get the support that you need and you deserve. So what about the things that we can reframe? And there are ways to think about some of the happenings of 2020 in a way that does serve us moving forward into 2021. So let's talk about how we can reframe 2020. And I don't mean putting a fake layer of sugary denial frosting on it to cover it up, okay? We all want to live in reality, okay? That's just not going to work. So what I mean is taking the time for self-reflection or just simply to think about 2020 and not just gloss over it and say, oh, it's all gone and it's all done. And I want you to think about what the year was like for you. There were some great things. There were some good things. There were things that were not great. There were things maybe that were awful. We're going to transition to try to think about it in a way that's either based in reality. We can maybe neutralize it, or we can think about it in a way that may even serve us moving forward. Because here's the good news is, and exciting, is that you get to take what you want and you just leave the rest behind. Okay? It's like you're kind of like a panning for gold. You're sifting for those little gold nuggets, and you just get to go down under the water and then pull it up. Okay? You got to get your tools, and you got to be willing to go do the work and go look and then find those little gold nuggets. Of course, you're not going to leave those behind. Those are valuable, right? So you want to take those moving forward, and we want to do this every year, not just for 2020, right? It's every year. And this is a practice we can do starting now that we can always have moving forward. So you're going to have some gold nuggets from 2020. You're going to have other things you wouldn't take with you to 2021 if you were literally paid all the money in the world, okay? And I want you to think about this as you're moving forward and looking back at the same time, because you can do that. You're talented enough to do that. Your past self is just your thoughts about yourself. Isn't that interesting? We know also that there's always uncertainty in the world, and things that we don't cause and are out of our control, right? We know that. And 2020 was a really in-our-face example of that. We didn't cause it, we don't control it, and there's always uncertainty, and we cannot predict what's going to happen. I always say that, of course, we know we don't control it, and we can't fix it, because if we could, even remotely, it wouldn't even be that way in the first place, right? Because we wouldn't have let it happen if we could have prevented it from happening and if we controlled it, right? So we aren't in control of COVID or a lot of the things, most of the things in our lives and most of the things that happened in 2020, but we are in control of how we decide to think about 2020 and what we want to take with us moving forward. Because let me tell you, my whole goal for 2021, for every single thing I do, is to have fun. My whole business, everything. Because if I have fun creating IME community, you're going to have fun and we're all going to have a blast together. Okay? So look forward to that. I'm so ready for it. I am so ready for this fun. And the reason I know I will deliver on that fun, which I put in all caps, is because I have been so intentional and on purpose thinking a lot and doing the work of self-reflecting and deciding on purpose that what I want and what works for me. And when I'm having fun, I'm creating amazing things for you guys. I mean, it's just like I'm creating all this value, all these amazing things because I'm having so much fun and I'm having a blast. And you're going to be like, wow, I want to be a part of that. Why not? Let's have more fun. The more, the merrier, right? So when you're thinking of an event or situation or circumstance that happened in 2020 and you're reflecting back, I'm going to offer you some options to start thinking about it in a way that serves you. And first you need to know, like, kind of look back and look at how you're actually thinking about it now. So maybe there's something that happened like COVID or something else, and you think and say to yourself, and maybe keep saying out loud, maybe it's like online learning is an example. And you say, this happened to me. This happened to me. And that may be true, right? That may be true that happened to you. But I'm going to suggest to make a shift to say, instead of this happened to me, I want you to start saying or thinking, this happened, right? This happened. So remote learning, I'm all remote learning, or I'm hybrid remote learning. Instead of remote learning happened to me, I didn't have a choice. It's terrible. I can't do anything about it. See that kind of victim-y language that doesn't get you out of being stuck, right? And we're moving into 2021, so we want to take what's helpful and leave what isn't. And this is just a mind shift. This is unlocking the power of your mind to shift, to create a new thought. And it's just reality, right? And you may even be someone who could make lemonade out of lemons. And you're reflecting back on 2020 happenings. And you think, I'm really going to shift this. And I'm going to say, this happened for me. There may be some things that happen for you. And you can say, wow, that's cool. I really made lemonade out of lemons. And I rocked that. I worked that out. Yeah, that was hard, but I shifted and I thought of a new way of doing it. And I thought of, how to maybe make it fun to get it done. Join IME community. So your early 2021 challenge is to get some cool shades first, reframe your 2020, and just ask yourself, like, what do I want to take with me? And what are the gold nuggets that I've sifted out? And I'm not going to leave those behind. Those are super valuable. And I worked hard for those. I'm taking them with me. Ask yourself, what did I learn about myself that's really valuable? Maybe you learned you're way stronger than you thought. Maybe you learned you're more adaptable than you thought. Maybe you learned you could reframe how you think about situations that are out of your control in your life. Maybe you found out that you were a really supportive family member. I don't know. I mean, you get to decide that and think about it. What do I want to leave behind? You can drop it like a book. How can you shift from this happened to me to just this happened, or even this happened for me? then the cool thing is that you get to move into 2021 and you get to own your 2021. And you get to create your 2021 from your future self, which is what I'm going to coach you on during the next podcast. So don't forget to join me.
Thank you for tuning in to the IME Community Podcast, where self-love is your superpower. The content of this podcast represents the opinions of Dr. Carla Lester and is not intended as, and shall not be understood as, a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The opinions shared reflect the host and guest and do not represent an organization or medical group. Always seek the advice of your physician or therapist if you have concerns about your health. And please, like and subscribe to the IME Community Podcast. Share IME with your friends and go to imecommunity.com to join the member community. Don't forget to follow IME on social.